Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Gene Morgan, who's the founder and CEO of Zelandez, who are experts in Lithium Brine-field Technology Services, whose purpose is to accelerate lithium supply, which is why Zelandez provides cutting-edge technology that helps develop lithium brine resources faster and produce more profitability. Gene has a mechanical background and has worked in the oil and gas sector for SLB before starting the company back in 2016. So he's here today just to tell us a little bit more about his journey and how he helps lithium companies with their technology and obviously increase profitability. So that's welcome, Gene, to the podcast. How you doing, Gene?
Great, Rob. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Appreciate your time as well. So as I just briefly mentioned, you're the founder of Zelandez. So I just wondered if you can just tell us a little bit about your background. And as I mentioned, you've come from the oil and gas sector and moved over to mining to start this company. So I just wondered if you just give the audience a overview of your career and your journey and how you obviously started this company.
Yeah, sure. So, so Zelandez is a lithium technology services company. Our purpose is to accelerate lithium supply. We do this by providing cutting edge technology, everything from down the well geophysical logging to resource and feasibility studies to drone surveys of evaporation ponds, even to modular production plants. So our first thought is always, how can we save the client time? Which is why we've been successful, I think. Lithium brine is the resource with the lowest cost of production, but it's also the slowest speed to production on the order of 7+ years. And so why we help clients is to focus on speed to production. But in addition, as a company, we're passionate about lithium. Being a key enabler for the transition to electric transportation and also, to combat climate change. From my background, I like to say I entered into lithium as a result of love and oil. I grew up in New Zealand. I studied mechanical engineering and then spent a decade with a oil field services company, helping explore oil and gas across Europe, Africa, and Latin America. And I think the lithium fork in the road for me came in the middle of 2008. I just arrived in Bolivia, and I was fortunate enough to meet my future wife, but also make a trip up to Zelandez Journey, which is the largest lithium resource in the world. And you may remember that at that time, Tesla had just rolled out its first EV, the Roadster. And so there was quite a bit of press around, the future of lithium-ion batteries, and with Bolivia receiving a lot of attention as a large future source of lithium. So fast forward to 2015, we had Volkswagen in the papers with their infamous Dieselgate scandal. And in my mind, there was a clear view starting to emerge, that the internal combustion engine days were numbered, and that the lithium-ion battery would be the new way to move us around, and that there would be a multi-decade growth story in lithium. By the same token, lithium coming from the South American brines is similar to oil field exploration and development. And so you're essentially producing what is a fluid resource from an underground reservoir. So, I saw the opportunity to apply my oil and gas skill set to an exciting new field. And I founded Zelandez, and we completed our first operation in 2018. And we've become, evangelists for pioneering new tech in the industry.
So I wonder if you can just give us an overview of the company. And obviously you started it, founded it, and I suppose the journey that you've been on from 2016?
Yeah, so the journey from 2016, we started with the premise that oil field technologies and methodologies could be applied to lithium brine exploration and production. And so, we started with a heavy focus on understanding everything about the below ground, which is the very strong specialist area of knowledge in oil and gas. In oil and gas, you really want to understand the subsurface or the below ground in very high detail. And so we attempted to do that by first offering advanced downhole geophysics, which is essentially about mapping the subsurface in high detail to understand everything about the resource and how to produce it. And then we've since moved into other service areas to do with the below ground, but also to do with the above ground. Because we can think of lithium as a combination of hydrogeology on the below ground side and chemical engineering on the above ground side. And so you've got this combination of mining and chemical processes. And so as a company, since 2016, we've started becoming more well-rounded in the services we offer, and more comprehensive, support to lithium miners exploring and producing.
Why did Zelandez decide to enter the North American market now? And what were, I suppose, the key drivers behind your decision? Obviously, I take it you're predominantly in South America. So yeah, what made you enter the North American market?
Yeah, so firstly, we think that the USA should have its own lithium supply. So just like oil, lithium is strategically important, and just like oil, the US will eventually punch above its weight in terms of lithium supply. The Inflation Reduction Act has definitely turned the attention back to the US as the land of investment opportunity and in the lithium value chain. But it's important to remember that South America is still the home of lithium. It's the Saudi Arabia of lithium, so to speak. And right now, the technology advantage is there. So, the project build-outs are happening there. So Zelandez is a dominant provider in South America. We've now signed USA clients, set up an office in Austin, Texas, and we're now bringing, specialist technologies north. Obviously, the IRA bill is a turning point for the US energy independence. In a way, the build out of the lithium-ion battery supply chain in the US will help to continue the legacy of energy independence for the US, which was won really with the shale and oil and gas revolution from the last decade. But it's going to require a significant amounts of mining of lithium to continue that.
What are some of the key issues and challenges that the North American lithium mining companies are sort of currently facing?
Yeah, so two challenges facing American lithium companies, as I see it, are permitting and the general problem of talent. So permitting is a big one. Sometimes, projects can take several years to get through the lengthy and complex regulatory processes. Though it is enlightening to see some positive first steps now starting to happen for reforming of permitting in the US. And probably permitting reform will be a key part of boosting US lithium mining and processing this decade. And then on the challenge of talent, because of the newness of the brine industry, lithium industry in general, the pool of existing professionals and skill in the sector is small to start with. So this is going to be an ongoing threat to the progress of projects getting built, and why we believe as a company that talent will have to be pulled in from other resource and chemical industries such as oil and gas, and then reskilled to the speciality of lithium mining.
Obviously, being in recruitment, and I did a podcast with a CEO, which the podcast isn't out just yet. But we were speaking about that subject where he did say the mining industry just generally recycle the same people within the industry, and they tend to not look outside of the mining industry to bring people in. Obviously, certain roles like head office roles, whether it's finance, procurement, supply chain, HR, they can probably come from other sectors. But I suppose in operations, they don't come from other sectors. I wondered if you could sort of comment, coming from the oil and gas, how easy that of a transition that could be for the mining industry to consider candidates or people from other industries to come into the mining industry.
Yeah, I think from my experience coming from oil and gas as an engineer, it was a fairly straightforward transition. As I said, for the lithium brine case, which is just one of the lithium resources being produced in the industry, or types of resources, it's very similar to how you explore and produce from oil and gas or oil fields. So taking that talent, that reservoir engineering talent, chemical processing talent, geoscientist talent, that talent can very easily be transitioned into lithium brine resources. And that's what we've seen. And that's what we continue to see, not just us in our company, as we bring in talent from oil and gas, reskill it, but we also see it with our clients. So some of our biggest clients we're now starting to see, reservoir engineers, process engineers from oil and gas in the upper echelons of technical management.
How important is data becoming within the lithium sector, and how can sort of lithium miners benefit from it?
Yeah, data is really the lifeblood of any lithium mine exploration development process. So, through data, we de-risk a mining project over time. We build a clearer picture about its potential production and economic performance. And it's becoming increasingly crucial for better decision-making and risk management. So, by harnessing the power of data analytics, which many industries are facing currently, lithium miners can gain a competitive advantage and navigate the challenges of the industry better. For example, we introduced advanced downhole geophysics in the space and pioneered the use of borehole magnetic resonance, which is kind of like an MRI scanner for rock. And by doing this, we increase the turnaround time of getting the key porosity and permeability data, which are two of the three key parameters for understanding, the economic value of a lithium brine resource.
The sort of downstream North American lithium market is facing massive demand pressures, as you've sort of alluded to. How will Zelandez services and solutions used by upstream sector benefit the downstream sector?
Yeah, so right now there are a lot of auto OEMs and battery manufacturers actually getting into the upstream to secure supply. The problem is that the risk profile of lithium mining is way above, the risk levels they're accustomed to in manufacturing. And this scares them a lot, so they don't really have an option but to get involved or risk putting their EV production plans in jeopardy. So our whole purpose as a company is to accelerate lithium supply, and in doing so, help de-risk supply for the downstream to invest freely.
You mentioned obviously the Inflation Reduction Act. How can sort of lithium miners and I suppose others capitalise on the opportunities presented by the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022?
Yeah, well, partnering with someone that can take advantage of the tax credits is one. My main comment is that the IRA has the potential to really change the energy independence of America over the next 10 to 20 years. Since the IRA was passed, we've had announcements of gigafactories, moving, looking to start up in the US. And, in the few months, let's say November to now, there's been a 60% increase in the number of gigafactories being announced. So what that means is that, more demand for investment in lithium mines in the US or in countries with free trade agreements with the US. And really, speed is going to be essential to taking advantage of these tax credits. It's not that clear yet as to when they will run out. There's a lot of competition, not just between the lithium industry applying, but also any clean tech industry. So speed will be essential.
What can you say, North American miners? North American lithium miners. What can they learn from some of the mining companies, lithium miners in South America, where you're mainly situated?
Yeah, so learning from the hard fought lessons really of developing lithium brine projects is probably one. Nothing in lithium is cookie cutter. Most projects require a bespoke chemical process, but there is knowledge and wisdom to be shared, especially in the implementation of relatively immature technologies like direct lithium extraction, which will be integral to a lot of the North American projects.
And if you look obviously at the global lithium mining sector, are you bullish or bearish about some of the challenges and opportunities for the market as a whole?
I'm bullish. As a diehard lithium fan, I have to be, but more so, the demand view to the horizon is now clear. At the moment, the gigafactory investment is about 3 to 4 times the pace of the upstream, which means that lithium mines just aren't being built quick enough to fuel this growth. And then you add the fact that we're only just starting to understand the true size of the energy storage market, which is the other half really of the demand story. And we think it will be as big, most likely bigger than the lithium demand coming from EVs. So, as technologists at heart, we believe that any challenge is overcome when the motivation is there.
So as a company, how do you go in and help some of these mining companies? What's your process?
So our process starts, we operate across the full lithium life cycle, from exploration into production. We're typically there right from the very start of doing the due diligence on a lithium mine concession. And then we help that lithium miner go about understanding their resource estimate, and then moving through the stages of feasibility, and then into the build out of the well field to start producing, and then into production. And then once they're in production, understanding how can they optimize production and maintain the productivity of their mine over the life of the mine.
And sort of concluding, what is the outlook for the company for the sort of remainder of the year going into next year? And is there anything else that you want to add to our audience? Obviously, our audience are mainly from the mining industry, and there's obviously service providers as well and investors. So I just wondered if you had any last words to say to them, but also obviously the outlook for the company.
Yeah, so as a company, we are we are very bullish on where the lithium market is going. We feel a responsibility to help get this market to where it needs to go in terms of supply. We'll be in a deficit for most of the rest of this decade, and so we need everyone to lend a hand in building these projects and getting them on time and on budget. So that's a big part of what we do, and to fuel that, to kind of support that, we're tripling down on R&D investment.
Okay, Gene, really appreciate your time in telling our audience a little bit about obviously the company, technology that you use, especially obviously dedicated to the lithium industry. If our audience has any questions, if they want to find out some more information, want to follow your story, how can they go about doing that? Are you across any particular social media channels?
Yeah, so probably first stop is our website, which is zelandez.com. And then I'm also on Twitter from time to time at Zelandez Journey. If someone wants to reach out there, that's I'll be happy to connect.
No worries, we can include those in the show notes accompany us anyway for easy access. So wish you well for the remainder of the year. And those that listen, appreciate your continued support. Please share this episode, not only just to lithium miners, but to others in the industry. Again, as the podcast, we want to educate the mining industry, so that isn't just necessarily in the commodities that you're involved in, but other commodities, other jurisdictions, and even technologies. So really appreciate your continued support. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.